Hello, welcome to Outside Xbox. I'm Mike, joined by Jane.
Hi.
And we have played Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2.
So weary is the wanderer that treads upon the fertile soil.
Can you believe?
Can you believe it? Finally.
It's real. It's happening. It's installed on your computer.
I know.
To an extent.
And yours.
We've played a small amount
of
Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2.
Indeed, yeah. So essentially, we were offered a preview version of the game. It's the opening of the game, so we have played the very start of the game. We kind of understand where the character fire comes from.
Are you hurt?
What's going on with them, and we got a little taste of the kind of central mystery in the game, right?
Are you playing a lady fire or a dude fire?
I'm playing a man fire.
Oh, a man fire. Sounds like a terrible euphemism.
It does actually. It sounds like a sort of new vitamin supplement that is getting pushed by grifters.
I think we slipped up slightly in that we both went for Tremere.
Right.
Which is like the blood magic specialist.
Yes.
But if I'm given an option to do blood magic, I'm going to do blood magic. Yeah. Also, I thought what was interesting is that there are 4 classes available in the game at launch. And it's Banu Hakim and Tremere, Ventru, and...
Bruja.
Remind me. Bruja, yeah.
Yep.
But like, I noticed that Ventru was down as like easy. Did you notice that?
Is that like a sort of like being rich is like easy mode in real life thing?
I thought it was that was unexpected for me. So I thought it was interesting. I would like to go play through the preview like code again as a Ventru. Like thematically, I'm all about the Ventru, but like I wanted to do the blood magic. So
yeah, I think it's probably to do with the combat, right? I found the combat in this game like reasonably challenging. It definitely requires a lot of thought, and it may be that the Ventru powers are just, it's easier for you to do stuff at a distance or without being detected. That might be the
it's
thing
like mind control, crowd control. Like if you can tell people what to do, then fighting them is going to be easier.
Right.
I imagine. But I just thought it was interesting. Along with the game difficulty settings, there's like a sort of difficulty judgment on different clans, on different actual bloodlines. For these are the bloodlines to which Bloodlines refers.
Till we've worked our caseload, seems we're stuck together. You know my blood is Malkavian. You know they call us lunatics, madmen, or prophets. But where do you draw a bloodline?
So shall we take it back a little bit?
Yep.
For the uninitiated, Mike, what is Bloodlines 2?
So Bloodlines 2 is the long-awaited sequel to Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, which is a game that came out in 2004 on the PC, and it was a glorious broken mess. So it came out, it was a sort of Source engine game, same engine as Half-Life 2, around the time when that was really impressive. The problem was it was like super ambitious but super buggy. But what it developed was a cult following, because it was one of the sort of few games that offered you a kind of immersive sim RPG experience with a sort of cool gothic aesthetic set in the modern day rather than in sort of ancient times. And it let you live out the fantasy of being a vampire in Los Angeles. It's been a long time coming, this sequel, not least the fact that it was previously being made by a completely different development studio. They were pulled off the project a few years ago, and so this has been totally reworked by the Chinese Room, who are kind of, I think, like well-respected as a developer, but this is probably their largest scale and most ambitious game yet.
Don't listen!
I guess thematically very close to the original Bloodlines, but gameplay-wise, I would argue quite different in the way it plays. The first game was a sort of series of open-world areas, like small-scale open-world areas around LA, with a lot of kind of side quests and things like that. I feel like this one is a sort of slightly more like narratively propelled game. There is an open world. It's set in Seattle in the middle of a sort of winter snowstorm, which is super atmospheric. The lighting's kind of beautiful and things like that. But certainly in this early part of the game that we've played, I feel like you're very much kind of following a single thread storyline. But what it includes that I think was a thing that people really enjoyed in the first game is sort of conversation options and the chance to kind of carve your own path based on how you want to play and managing relationships. A lot of kind of vampire society in the Vampire the Masquerade world is politicking and relationships and power structures and things like that. And so navigating those using your conversation options is a big part of it.
Well now, it's not often I see someone new in my city. Tell me your story, and we shall see if we are friends or not.
But I would argue one of the things that was maybe weakest in the original game, which is the combat, has been improved massively for this sequel.
Yeah, another major point of difference, you're playing not a newly embraced kindred like in the original game. You call it a cult classic. I think we have to, for context, fess up to being like members of that cult.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
One of our favorite games. Yeah. One of our mutually shared like favorite games. One major point of difference, you are playing an elder vampire who is, I think, 3 centuries old rather than a new member of the kindred who is like immediately at the bottom of the kind of heap of the vampire social hierarchy. Yeah,
so you play a character called Fire who's woken up after a 100-year slumber, and they are something I didn't realize. They are known. They are referred to as the Nomad, and they are a sort of like historically significant vampire who's turned up in Seattle after 100 years of sleep. And is currently causing a bit of stir.
Forgive me. You're the Nomad.
Huh? Guess word gets around.
When you're walking around, you're not just powerful. You are recognized and known by members of the Vampire Society, which is a really interesting. So many games start you off on the bottom of the ladder, and even what you often get with these kind of immersive sims is like, for example, with Deus Ex. You get an entire game where you build up your powers, and in the sequel, they find a way to strip you of those powers. This is sort of almost the other way around. You are kind of weaker than perhaps it's implied you were before you were in your torpor, which is this sort of long vampire slumber. But immediately in combat, you feel like empowered, and there's a moment very early on where some guy comes up to you and you kind of punch him in the face, and he like flies backwards and bounces off a door, leaving a big sort of blood smear across it.
Fool. More evidence.
So even from the very first moment, you feel fast, you feel dangerous, you are able to feed like almost instantly when the sort of prompt appears. So it definitely sells from that very first moment, that kind of fantasy of being a sort of all-powerful creature of the night, and humans are really, if it's you versus a single human, the single human is going to be killed. You're only in trouble when there are large groups of humans who might be able to kind of overwhelm you.
And by human there, you mean ghouls rather than your garden variety useless human. Yeah,
predominantly the people you'll be fighting, at least in the early game, are ghouls, so people who are kind of aware of vampire society and are desperate to become vampires.
Jesus Christ!
In terms of the masquerade of the title, what that refers to is this idea of keeping up the pretense that vampires don't exist, that they're just a story. And so you've got to be really careful, certainly when you're navigating around Seattle, not to be like leaping over buildings in a single bound. Because
you can do a jump, but you can't do a vampire jump, which is the big jump.
Yeah,
you can do your puny human style jump, but if you do a double jump, people are going to start paying attention.
And you can do a run, but not your super fast vampire
You can't do your vampire run.
Exactly. So.
Remember, even in Seattle, people will notice if you do something, weird. Like leaping a building in a single bound. Keep it on the down low. We have a masquerade to protect.
So it's
like, when you do like a light jog, that's what the vampires are doing. They're like, I could go a lot faster than this.
Yeah, I did experiment with like what can I get away with on the streets of Seattle. Shout out to to Seattle of the game, actually. I thought it looks really, really cool, very atmospheric.
Yeah.
I've not been to Seattle. I don't know it as well as I know LA. So LA in Bloodlines 1, like there was the enjoyable experience of going, I know that place, I don't know Seattle, but you have been, so you can speak to like how authentically it is a Seattle.
There are definitely recognizable elements and sort of locations from the kind of downtown area. There's a sort of quite distinctive almost like covered sort of passageway that is in the middle of a park, and that's definitely there. I think it's also like a really interesting choice to set it during this kind of winter snowstorm because it gives it a real atmosphere, you know.
It's set at Christmas, and I'm a sucker for like a Christmas movie, a Christmas game.
Yeah.
So it's going to be my new Halloween/Christmas game, potentially.
Now there's a thing. Well then, welcome to the 21st century.
But I was saying I was experimenting with like what happens, how much can I get away with on the street, and there's a sort of like green, amber, red system of like Masquerade breaches. And did you see what happens if you max out your Masquerade breach if you push it too far?
Hands on your head!
It's like getting a 5-star wanted level in
Right.
GTA. Did you
No,
see?
I didn't try it. Does the sheriff come after you or something?
You literally get, in first person, you get staked through the heart, and
Wow.
it's like being caught by the alien in Alien Isolation, and you're
Oh,
just like,
amazing.
oh
Like
no,
Vampire Ninja.
oh yeah. So like the Camarilla has like evidently sent someone out to monitor you and your Masquerade breaches because you're liability or something. So I thought that was fun. I was like, how are they going to shut you down when you really do breach the Masquerade, or is it like you can go and do a little bit of a breach and then go and hide away? And like, yeah, you can get through like the amber warning and then into like the red, but when you hit a certain maximum, it's game over.
Your heat does kind of fade though a bit. Like I did
Yes,
something that was a
yes.
little mildly naughty and it kind of went
Mildly
up, but
naughty,
then
yeah.
it came back down
Yeah.
again. So it's
Well,
not
yeah,
gonna be
it's about
biggish.
using your vampire run when no one's looking, and then slowing to like a nice like
Yeah.
safe jog when people are looking. So.
But it's worth pointing out that traversing the city is like super fun because as long as you're not doing it in front of people, you can kind of clamber up the walls of buildings and things like
yeah,
this.
that's why you go rooftop to rooftop. You've got
Yeah.
a glide, not a flight, but a vampire
Sort
glide
of
because you
hover,
are an
isn't it?
elder. So it's pretty cool. I
Yeah.
really did enjoy like going from rooftop to rooftop with the kind of vampire glide and vampire jump.
Now there's a rich aroma. Blood. Kindred blood.
Yeah, not something that I expected of Bloodlines 2 to be a kind of not first person platformer, shall we say, but like the action, the traversal, like feels really good. Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that, you know, for people who aren't necessarily sure what to make of this game, because it does feel quite different from the original Bloodlines. In terms of that mobility and the speed of the attacks and the sense of like empowerment, I think Dishonored's like a really good sort of like comparison in terms of how it plays. You know what I mean? In terms of that ability to kind of dash and leap and climb, and you're not teleporting per se, but you're sort of, you know, although I did unlock the ability
There is
to
a teleport
at one point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's a little more of a considered. You place a mark somewhere, and then you can kind of attack a bunch of people, and then when it gets too spicy, you can just teleport back to where you were. But yeah, it feels like one of those kind of. It's an action RPG, really, is the way to describe it, but with a sort of kind of open world cityscape as well, which I wasn't even sure that they, you know, when I heard that they would basically rip the guts out of this game and start it again almost, I wasn't sure whether they'd go for a kind of hub area, but it is there, and you know, you have a map with the various locations that you can go to and stuff. I don't know if there are multiple hub areas. We didn't play that far into the game, but certainly the initial one seems sort of large, and it's an interesting portion of Seattle to be hanging out in.
Sort of a downtown urban Seattle.
Yep.
Yeah. The DNA of like the Chinese room, whose last game was Still Wakes the Deep, I think you can kind of see, well, for starters, like this really like artful, like dense clutter of interiors. So like if you play Still Wakes the Deep, like there's this obsessive level of like authenticity and kind of verisimilitude and detail to the indoor environments. And so like your first haven, for instance, or like the bar, various other like indoor scenes, absolutely like covered in detail.
Yeah, your first haven is an absolute mess, obviously.
Yeah,
it's got
but
books
clutter
everywhere.
is so pleasing.
Yeah.
Like, I think the for that kind of like lived in, real sense of place,
My buddy Dale had body image problems. That's how he put it.
you've got to have that enormous amount of clutter. Yeah.
Also, because vampires are a very powerful society, this is like one of those games that, a bit like Hitman, is just interior design porn. So like when you get to the kind of wealthier, more powerful vampire areas, you know, they're these beautiful sort of interiors and modern buildings and things like that. that looks stunning, and you get a real mix of that, that kind of the contrast between the cluttered haven, and then when you go and meet the prince, and they've got these beautiful views across the city in this amazing sort of modern skyscraper.
And what did you two discuss?
Only that I should introduce myself to the current prince.
Good to hear. An important tradition, even for celebrities.
On the action, I think I would like to try the Banu Hakim, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah.
Because that seems to be like the stealth class, like the stealth clan. And it's quite easy to get overwhelmed by just like 6 ghouls.
With baseball bats and guns.
Yeah, if you're not playing with like focus and strategy, which I am sometimes not. I actually had a lot of fun, kind of like stalking and stealthing, and that would be enhanced by playing as that bloodline.
This is bullshit.
It definitely offers up like different ways to approach like a combat or potential combat scenario.
Yeah, I think that's where the clan differences are really going to come through. Obviously, there are slight sort of dialogue changes and tweaks depending on which clan you are, and characters will react to you differently depending on what clan you are. But I think where it's going to really come out is obviously in the combat and the kind of abilities and powers that you have. It's quite a nice system. I certainly was playing it on the gamepad, and you kind of have your powers. You like hold a trigger and just press one of the face buttons to kind of deploy these powers. So they're quite easy to deploy. But as you say, it's very easy to get overwhelmed when there's a bunch of kind of ghouls hanging out. And if you do get surrounded, you're probably going to be in trouble. So yeah, it really does become about kind of thoughtful use of your abilities. This is footage that you've been seeing during this video is not captured by us, so I don't actually have footage of this, but there was a brilliant moment where the Tremere has an ability where you curse someone, and it takes a while to wind up. You're kind of there holding your hand and they're sort of glowing as they become cursed. But if you can get the curse off, and it's only got a certain range and stuff, then the enemy that you've done it to doesn't notice, but if you cause any damage to them whatsoever, they will just explode. Like their blood detonates and they burst like a balloon, doing damage to people around them.
And in fire shame you end.
So I had this situation where it was there's a point where you're trying to there's a bunch of people hanging around an elevator, and you're trying to get up the elevator, and you've got to deal with all those people. And I got this guy, managed to blood curse him, and there was a baseball bat from another enemy that I'd managed to sort of secretly kill. And I just threw the baseball bat at this guy, and he absolutely exploded and took out like 2 or 3 of the other characters. So it was that kind of like just a bit of thought, a bit of foresight, a bit of planning will like turn the odds in your favor. Because by the end, then there were only like 2 characters left to kill, and I guess stealth killed one of them and then just beat the other one to death. So
yeah, I think as you get later into the game, there's definitely going to be some like juicy discipline like combos, because we were only like an hour, a couple of hours in at most.
Point, yeah.
So presumably in the higher levels, you're going to be able to like combo that with this and get some fun results.
Peekaboo, ass!
I absolutely played myself at one point. So one of the Tremere like disciplines is, I forget the name, but basically you stun and immobilize someone by making their blood boil.
Yes.
Their blood goes all fizzy. And I was like, oh, this guy's immobilized. Perfect chance for a little feed, a cheeky little feed. And of course, if you feed
like
on
hot soup.
yeah, exactly. It's like I drank a bunch of like boiling blood. And did myself a tremendous amount of damage.
Did it damage? That's amazing.
Yeah,
that they thought
yeah,
of that.
yeah.
That's
So
really funny.
I appreciated that coherence of like, yeah, you made his blood boil magically, and then you drank that boiling magic blood. So you really did this to yourself.
Yeah, the thing where you burn the top of
Appreciate
your
that.
mouth and it's horrible. There is a drop kick. Did you spot that?
There's a drop kick. Yes, yeah.
If
It's
you
like
jump and then crouch and then attack, which is quite
Yeah.
a fiddly combo to
Yeah.
get off in the middle of like a busy combat situation.
Yes.
But,
Let me just crouch in the air here
But
and
you do like a
drop
big
kick, yeah.
comedy drop kick, which again I don't think we've got footage of.
You
but
love a
that'll be
drop
treat
kick.
for,
I
like,
know that.
I
Yeah.
love a drop kick. Dying Light's drop kick. What a treat.
Okay.
so
Away
yeah,
from combat,
go.
do you want to talk about like the non-combat vampiring of it all?
Yes, which is really my favourite bit. Although
Favourite bit, yeah.
You know, the combat is great, and actually I can see myself really getting into a kind of flow with it. But what I'm here for is like chatting to vampires, chatting up vampires, lots of flirtation in there as well. And there's some great characters to talk to. I loved so there's a Nosferatu called Tolly, who's a sort of like I think he's like he's giving like Camp Ryan Reynolds. I don't know if you got that. Like the voice.
He's giving like big in the 80s. Like
Yes.
if he could return to one time, I think he says it would have been like 1982.
You did? What did he have to say for himself?
The prince, I believe.
What a f***ing guy.
He's
Yeah.
got a kind of 80s looking blazer on it. I'm not
Yeah.
sure when he was embraced, but clearly like big fan of the 1980s. And I think what's interesting is that you're introduced to him like voice first.
Yeah.
And he has, like you say, a very kind of like a suave, actly kind of Ryan Reynolds-ish voice.
Yeah.
That is at odds with his Nosferatu like appearance.
Sorry, cutie pie. You're not on the guest list.
What did I tell you? Colorful.
That is the Nosferatu, Tolly.
Yeah, the performances are good. I really enjoy Fabian, who we haven't touched on at all.
Yes.
So
He's
this
a
is
big
the voice
part.
in your head who's like a little out of left field for me because I've been following the game, but I think they've been somewhat quiet, relatively quiet on this voice in your head, which we knew about. But are you actually playing occasionally as this second character?
Having a bad night, child? No.
But
Just keep your poker face. They won't eat you. Well, not all of you, anyway.
So you're playing as both the protagonist we knew about and this voice in his or her head.
Who speaks?
I am. Well, I was a vampire, like yourself.
Who is a Malkavian by the name of Fabian.
Indeed.
Whose like Malkavian bloodline manifests as role playing as like a film noir detective, I guess.
Yeah, he's a sort of like cosplaying as a detective. But he has an office in the police department, so he is.
So he
technically
somewhat is a detective,
but
yeah.
he's really leaning into the whole noir thing.
All right then.
I remember now. It was a cold day in December. Colder than usual, I mean.
I think what's really cool about Fabian is like when they first said that you're gonna have a voice in your head, I was like, wow, that has the potential to get really annoying really
Better
fast.
be a good voice. Yeah.
But it is a good voice, it's good delivery, he's a good character, and I think he serves like a really useful gameplay purpose that I didn't really realize would be the case, which is that like after you've had a conversation with one of these like important vampires who he knows from his sort of like, because he lived in Seattle for however many years, he'll give you little updates saying, oh, that went well, or, he really liked you, or she really liked you, or, oh, that didn't go so well, blah, blah, blah.
Good job with Benny back there, by the way. Matching his macho. You show him your underbelly, he'll cut it out.
And it's a bit like one of those, it's one of those games where, like, different characters respond positively and negatively to different approaches, right? So some of them, like, if you're too nicey and polite, they don't respect you, like the sheriff character who you meet at one point in the game. Others, like, want to have their ego stroked, and it's this kind of, like, getting a feel for which, like, route of conversation to take, and you can, within a single conversation, say stuff that will, like, enormously please a character and then, like, enormously piss them off. And it's about navigating that and trying to build those relationships. And that's what's really exciting for me. I like that idea of you're kind of, navigating the kind of reading the social cues, trying to sort of work out the best way to handle each of these strong characters.
Look what took the bait.
If it ain't Benny Muldoon.
More so than in the first game, you're trying to pick your way through a conversation, but the overall direction of the conversation is sort of chosen for you. I think that's fair to say. There's not going to be like at least not in the small amount of time we've played, there's not like the pink option to try and like chat this guy up to, sweet talk them into something. It's like more than dialogue options that take you in drastically different directions. It's more like a series of questions, like what information do you want to extract as a priority out of this person? And then they will react to your priorities. If you're asking, so like Lou Graham,
Yeah.
It's like the former Prince of Seattle. And if you ask her something that she doesn't want to talk about, then she's going to be like suspicious or she's going to be annoyed. But if you ask her a question that sort of strokes her ego, then she's going to like you more. So it's an interesting like combination of the kind of conversations you have in an RPG. I feel like in an RPG, you've got the conversations where you're like fact finding. You like ask them about this, and then you're like the conversations that's like be aggressive, be seductive, etc. And they've kind of like merged the two.
Yes.
Insofar as in as much as we've played the game, and I think that's really interesting and calls on you to play a slightly different way, because I'm accustomed in an RPG to like you just work your way through everything that's on the menu. It's like I'm going to ask you about all the information that you've got to give me until I've exhausted all the options. Like let's ask A, B, C,
they
D,
paid
E,
the
F.
voice actors, like we might as well hear it.
Let's find out. But actually, I think that it behooves you to be much more like picky and much more like political about what you're asking them, because they're going to be pissed off by some questions and not by others. Others they're going to like you more.
Look at you. Even more delicious up close. And that power, that authority, like a heady perfume.
So I think it's a really interesting way, it's an interesting twist on doing like RPG dialogue, while I think maybe not offering you as much room to maneuver as the kind of like conversations you were having in Bloodlines 1.
Yeah, I suppose what remains to be seen is how impactful those relationships end up being as the game reaches its sort of like denouement. Like if, for example, you being really careful about how you treat Lou Graham, for example, and make sure that she feels like special and wanted. Maybe she comes through for you in the end of the game in a way that she doesn't if you haven't managed to negotiate that sort of relationship carefully. But like you say, I think it sort of makes it more important that you really listen to what the characters are saying, you really get a measure of them quickly, and you really think about which dialogue options you take. Because like it's kind of like pick all the sort of informational options, and then you choose Paragon, Renegade, or seductive, or, do you know what I mean? And it's not that straightforward. I did notice that there are sort of clan specific like responses occasionally, so you'll get a little response with like a little clan logo that must be only available to if you're in that clan.
Better start wriggling, little fish. It's about to get real dry.
Sheriff, Bruja, my boss. Careful.
Is that how you address one of the clan of kings?
So I suspect probably if you want to play the kind of seductive, like sleazy vampire, instead of you're not putting like points into seduction in the way you did in the first game, which I think maybe some people will not like. But I suspect the way it works is it will be your clan choice at the start of the game. It's like if you want to be a Toreador and sleaze your way around Seattle, then pick the Toreador clan, because that will have those kind of clan specific options that will probably be more flirtatious.
I think to a relatively minor degree, not a major degree. I think it's not like full points in the sexterity, and now you're going to sleaze your way through the game, aka the Mike Channel method.
Exactly, tried and tested.
It's more of a flavour than a strategy, I guess.
Yeah,
you could put it that way.
Although
Yeah, and I enjoy having Fabian as the voice in your ear, as like your kind of counsellor.
Yes.
Because I suspect the game is going to present these conversations, and they are actually going to be quite challenging to pick your way through in an optimal way. So on the one side, like you say, you're going to have to like actually listen quite carefully rather than just like plow your way through all the dialogue options. And on the other hand, you do have Fabian who's kind of going to give you a hint before you enter into a confrontation or an encounter.
Yeah, I think it was made clear to me when you have that first conversation with the sheriff, and your first instinct is to be sort of obsequious and like, oh, terribly sorry, sheriff, please don't kill me. And like I did that for the first option just almost by default, and when Fabian was like, this guy doesn't like sniveling, groveling types, like you have to meet him at
stand up for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You have to meet him at his level of macho. So so yeah, that's where it sort of clicked for me, and then I was like, okay, right, every conversation I'm going to have to concentrate. I suppose the downside is that there are going to be occasions where you kind of look at the text and it's not necessarily obvious. Like you might say something that seems kind of innocuous but like has a more outsized reaction because it's delivered in a way that you weren't quite expecting. But that happens rarely, I would say. Like it's quite well balanced.
it's a classic RPG like trope, almost a joke, where it's like they have to shorthand your dialogue choice on screen, and then you pick it and you're like, oh no, that's not what I thought that was going to be. So yeah, you all know how it goes. Yeah.
But what I really like is the reactions are like not just this person liked that, this person disliked that. There's stuff like this person was embarrassed by that, or at one point one of the characters was aroused by something I said. So I was like,
whoa, I did not get that. I'm not arousing anyone in
you're not trying
in this game. Whoa. Okay.
It was Sophia, the science lady.
I knew it.
Oh yes,
she's sort of like amazed by the fact that you're the nomad and stuff. And
she's a Tremere, isn't she? She's like a sort of blood scientist. Yeah.
But I think maybe
she's like a super fan. She's like a nomad super
she's
fan.
Like, ooh,
I think I was trying to like chill her out. Actually, I was like steady on. No, okay.
Trying to rev her up. Let's go.
Well, here we go. Okay, now we're seeing the differences and the divergence in those conversations. Yeah. Interesting.
But I'm hoping there's some romance, right? Like, because vampires and romance, it's they go together like.
You're a big softie. I read an article where the developers said there would be romance to a degree in the form of like romantic feeding is what they called it. So
wow,
make of that what you will. And
bit of neck kissing then, basically.
Bit of I don't know. What does romance mean for a 300-year-old vampire?
I can't wait to find out.
100 years. I enjoyed the flashbacks. There's a sort of like some sepia toned flashbacks where you're playing as Fabian, so not as an elder vampire with all these powers, but as a Malkavian with Malkavian powers. So I guess you could say it's the 5th playable clan in the game, which you will be playing, however else you choose, because you're playing as Fabian. He's got, something to give you the old brain scramblies to wipe someone's memory.
Forget. Hey, Wheeler, you have a problem with me leaving? I owe you or something?
Huh? What? Oh, no. No, buddy, sorry. God, I must have nodded off.
You can appear as someone else, like don a sort of psychic disguise.
Well, hello there.
Oh my, I think I know what you are.
I thought this was like a fun bit of, so Malkavians aren't like physically like gifted in the same way as maybe like your Ventrue or whatever, but he does have like a kind of a little jog, like a kind of like a run.
Yes.
But it's called mental jog.
Yes.
And it represents you fast forwarding your memory because it's a flashback rather than you actually running fast. So if you do mental jog as Fabian, everyone else in the world, all the NPCs are like, faster as well, because it represents not you running fast, but you running your memories back a bit faster. So I was like, that's cute.
And it doesn't break the masquerade, unlike your vampire sprint.
It doesn't break the masquerade, unlike doing a big jump, a big vampire jump. I jumped on top of a car. People were like, fine. Which I suppose is fine. Like a normal weirdo human in the street might jump on top of a car. But if I like scale a tall building, people are going to freak out. Yeah. So that's the difference.
It's worth mentioning that although you aren't like a sort of, you are a set character, you can choose a male or female fire, obviously, which will change presumably a bunch of stuff, in terms of how people relate to you. But also, you can customize your appearance. Did you go in and change your hairstyle?
You can choose your hairstyle and like color.
Yeah.
So you can also change the color of your eyes, I believe, and your outfits. And the outfits are really banging. They're really good stuff. Yeah. So weird. Like what's like unusual is that you unlock outfits as you unlock disciplines. I mean, maybe there'll be other ways to unlock outfits, but I was using the new outfit every time I unlocked a new discipline, and each one was like cooler than the last.
Yeah.
You should stop by my place, Atrium. The kind call it a nightclub, but it's so much more.
Jane, final thoughts then, based on what you've played of Bloodlines 2. What do you reckon?
Final thoughts. I'm ready to play some more.
Me too.
I will confess to, but you and I were playing some preview code that was meant to, like was meant to stop at a certain point in the game.
It stopped at a certain point for me, Jane. Did it stop?
And it stopped
for you?
at a certain point for Mike, and I was like, okay, I must nearly be at the end of this demo, because this is a really, really generous demo, and it just kept going, and I think I had the most wonderful glitch where actually it didn't kick me out of the demo, and I was just playing the game. So I guess I'll go check it out, see if that's still working. But yeah. I'm not divulging anything past the point that we are actually meant to have played.
Course.
And and I didn't know I wasn't meant to be playing more.
But you are going to go back to it until they patch that.
Until they shut it down. Yeah, I'm fascinated by this game. It's like on a meta level, like the history of like the history of this game, like the 21-year kind of journey from Bloodlines 1 to what we have now, I think is fascinating. And I'm such a big like vampire nerd that like it's kind of got my attention regardless of what it does. But I am actually like very optimistic having played this kind of this little bit.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same spot really. To be honest, I was actually pretty concerned. We got a kind of look at gameplay. Maybe even over a year ago now. There was
that mannequin factory demo. It's like a warehouse
stuff.
full of mannequins, and you're like, okay.
And it looked okay, but the combat looked a bit jerky and not very fluid, and I feel like it needed a lot of refinement. But I feel like having played this code, that refinement has occurred, and I'm a lot more confident now. I think this is going to be. I think the best way to describe it is like this is definitely going to be in the same way that Bloodlines was like my favorite game, for a long time. This is definitely going to be some people's favorite game. I think it plays really nicely. The atmosphere is totally on point. The characters are really well written. Like all the dialogue is great. All the performances are great. I'm like super excited now to play more. And I think I can see myself really getting to grips with that combat and really learning to mix and match abilities on the fly. At the moment, I need to be quite cautious going into a combat encounter and make sure I've sort of got a little plan, but I could imagine getting to the point where it's just sort of free-flowing and you're kind of John Wicking your way through this.
You're going to be feeding a lot, like
yes.
more than you think you are. It's like
it's
doing
so quick as well.
Yeah. It's like you're going to be feed from this guy, use the blood you acquire from this guy to do a discipline on this guy, go over there and feed from this guy, and so on and so forth. Kind of chain together those feeding discipline almost.
It's just that thing where when a game's in development for this long and it's got troubled development, I think it's fair to say like it rarely ends well. Do you know what I mean? Normally it kind of limps over the line and is a bit of a disappointment. But this feels like you say polished. Like the attention to detail in the environments is super high. The combat feels good. All the dialogue choices and stuff feel really satisfying, even if they're quite light touch in terms of their effect on the overall plot. It's it gives you that kind of flavor. It's a bit like Mass Effect, where you're sort of a lot of the choices you make, there might be some big pivotal choices, but a lot of the sort of conversation stuff is almost just like flavor for you as a role player to get into that kind of character. But that all delivers as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, I am super hyped now. I was gonna play it anyway. I was gonna be excited for it anyway. But it's like I feel like it's validated that excitement, this small portion, and I genuinely can't wait to see where the story goes. We got actually and we won't talk about it obviously because it would be spoilers, but you get some big revelations about what's going on like fairly early on in this preview code. We know a lot more about like Fabian than maybe I expected to, and we've got a fair idea of who Fire is. So yeah, even in those first few hours, I feel like the story's opening up really nicely, and I can't wait to see more.
Welcome to Seattle. Come on, the haven's not far.
What year is this?
The year 2024. When did you...
I have been asleep for 100 years.
Those are our thoughts about Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, having played a good couple of hours of the early part of the game. Let us know in the comments if you're as excited as we are. Obviously, huge Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines fans on here, as you will know if you've followed us through Hallow Stream. So keep it locked to Outside Xbox for much more on this game. We will be all over it at Gamescom as well. Obviously, we've just seen Opening Night Live. You'll have seen the trailer, but we will be seeing more of the game at Gamescom as well. So yes, lots more Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 to come. And if you are in London, like next week, we are doing a live Vampire the Masquerade TTRPG actual play live show at London at the World's Lair Festival. There may still be tickets available. So check that out as well if you want to see me and Jane pretending to be vampires.